You want me to put that on my Tudor?
This one's wife. Let's end this feud. The olive branch returns. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Do you remember the olive branch? It's probably looking a little bit worse for wear these days, missing a number of leaves. Some of the bark has been stripped away, bent out of shape. After all, it was getting a jolly good use some time ago as a consequence of being sent out over the ocean by the gruesome twosome. Because remember, they are just kind souls, you know, misunderstood, unduly vilified by hatred, by swivel-eyed, foam-flecked-mouthed bigots spewing vile, horrible, awful accusations in their direction. Never lose sight of the fact that the poor old Sussexes are the ones that have been hard done to in all of this, you know. After all they ever wanted was their financial independence. All they ever wanted was to love and to be loved. And yet, they are the peace brokers. I am surprised that this one's wife, with so much use of the olive branch, hasn't been parachuted into Ukraine in order to bring about peace talks between Zelensky and Putin. I'm surprised that she hasn't already resolved the conflict between Israel and Palestine, that matter hasn't been put to bed. After all, she is the living saint, the bearer of the olive branch. This repeated use of the olive branch by this one's wife is part of her facade. The presentation of this facade to the outside world that she is a kind, compassionate, empathic individual. She presents this because her narcissism generates that facade in order to control people, to draw fuel from them, by them reacting and saying, you know she's a good person. You know she's kind. She only wants the best for other people. She's always on the lookout for others, you know, such a selfless individual. Her facade must be one of the hardest working facades in the narcissist world. Indeed, I hear at the annual NARC Awards that are going to take place this coming autumn, fall to our transatlantic cousins, that she is one of the nominees in the category of most hard-working facade mid-range section. That facade has been put under considerable strain as the consequence of the fact that there is so much evidence out there that demonstrates that actually the facade is entirely that, a facade. Ordinarily, most narcissists don't face the level of scrutiny that she does, nor the existence of so much evidence that contradicts what is attempted to be conveyed through the facade. Most narcissists of mid-range and greater variety will operate with a facade. There are different types. Yet, the stress that facade comes under is nowhere near that to which her facade has been subjected to, and that's why we have seen repeated instances of it fracturing, breaking, getting a glimpse behind it, etc. Nevertheless, you might think to yourself, surely she would stop with this act. Surely she would work out nobody's fooled by it other than the dim-witted shuggers. Give it up. Take a load off your shoulders. Forget about it. But no, she can't, because it's an intrinsic part of her narcissism, and it still does work in certain areas. Thus, she maintains it, notwithstanding the fact that it is subject to ridicule and is entirely seen through by many sections of the public. She's at it again, wielding the facade, with once again bringing out the much-used and rather knackered olive branch. And Nika Shaknarzova, writing in the New York Post, explains, Prince Harry and this one's wife reached out to Kate Middleton, she's the Princess of Wales, if you please, before her trooping the colour appearance, desperate to mend feud. Hang on a second, I'm just going to go through my filing system and file this one under complete horse shit. Desperate to mend feud. My backside. But let's dive in and find out what's reported, and then your glorious narrator can tell you as it is, vis-a-vis this one's wife's narcissism. Prince Harry and this one's wife had reached out to Kate Middleton before her defiant return to the spotlight at last week's Trooping the Colour ceremony, according to a report. Pausing there. Didn't happen, revision of history. Furthermore, even if it had, it wouldn't have reached the Princess of Wales because of her no-contact regimen. Middleton, 42, delighted fans on Saturday by joining the royal family for King Charles's birthday celebrations on the Buckingham Palace balcony. Despite not having seen the Princess of Wales since news of her cancer diagnosis came to light, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex have reportedly extended an olive branch to the royal. No, they haven't. They want it made to be known that they have apparently done so in order to make this one's wife look good. Facade management, a typical manipulation of the narcissist. This one's wife has no emotional empathy. That means she doesn't care about the Princess of Wales. Indeed. She is motivated by hatred towards the Princess of Wales because the Princess of Wales is painted black. She is the nemesis. Nevertheless, in order to control the populace, she wants it to appear that she does care, that she is somebody that is concerned about the health of her sister-in-law. We know this isn't true because, 1, as a narcissist, she has no emotional empathy. 2, the fact that she has not said anything about the online bullying that the Princess of Wales has been subjected to is evidence that she doesn't care. 3, that she hasn't bothered, for instance, to go and visit, to say, "How are you?" demonstrates that she doesn't care. The fact that she has done nothing to curtail the behaviour of the Sussex squad similarly demonstrates the absence of compassion and caring. But ultimately, the most damning aspect is the fact that we know, because she's a narcissist, she doesn't care. She thinks that she does. She believes that she cares because her narcissism tells her that that's the case. But in actual fact, it isn't. The report continues by explaining that both Harry and this one's wife have been following Kate's recovery with huge interest. They haven't been following her recovery with huge interest, but this one's wife will have been monitoring what is being stated about her, driven by her need for information as that forms part of her need for control. But sadly, this following has had to be more from afar, because their lines of communication with the palace and the Waleses in particular are very limited, to say the least, a source told Closer. Why are they very limited? Could it be as a consequence of this one's wife's behaviour? Indeed it is, but she will never accept responsibility for that. The report continues by explaining they have had enough information to know that people are excited about the idea of a comeback for Kate, and they're both relieved, and happy to hear that she's on the mend and may soon be well enough to return to her duties. Well, Harry might think that way, but this one's wife certainly doesn't. But her narcissism has sufficient cognitive empathy to understand that if she were to say to the populace at large, "Oh, I hope she drops dead of her cancer," that would result in a massive outcry towards her. Therefore, her narcissism recognises that it is worthwhile giving the appearance of caring about Catherine by stating, "Oh, we're relieved and happy to hear that she's on the mend and may soon be well enough to return to her duties." Once again, facade management, driven by her narcissism to make people think that she cares, so that they will be under her control and they will provide her with fuel by saying, "See, isn't she kind? They've jointly reached out to send well wishes, revision of history, but they're still not really in a place with Kate to warrant much of a response. Well, that's because this one's wife's behaviour and the no-contact regime. The insider also added, this hasn't stopped them from trying to connect. Bollocks. When Kate gets back into action, their hope is that it might take some of the heat off them and possibly trigger a truce with her and William, with the king too, the source claimed. The only reason that this one's wife is advancing this idea that she cares is part of the facade management, with the knock-on effect and desire that they are able to resume communications with the royal family in order to, one, potentially then have something more to complain about. You can't really monetize silence. Secondly, without the royal family, this one's wife and Harry are nobodies. Whilst Harry is a prince by blood, by birth, his relevance has become reduced as a consequence of his ensnarement. This one's wife married into the royal family. She is utterly irrelevant, talent-free, charisma-free. She has nothing to offer to the outside world, other than a diminished interest in her as a consequence of the family that she married into. She still uses the title. It enables her to pursue the prime aims. She has to maintain a connection with the royal family because that might still convince certain people to give her some kind of gig. Without them, she's cast adrift into the ether, floating away towards oblivion. Hire me because I'm talented. No, you're not, comes the clarion call from all of those that might be interested. Hire me. I'm really likeable. People love to be around me. No, you're not. You're fucking detested, comes the response. Hire me. I can bring you brilliant insight into the world of finance and industry. No, you haven't got any insight whatsoever. You're fucking clueless, reply the titans of industry. Well, hire me because I've got a brilliant imagination and I'm fun to be around. Well, we'll give you the fact that you've got a rather fertile imagination, you revising of history wench, but you're not fun to be around, you're toxic. Now, Foxtrot Oscar. The fact is, as you can picture, this one's wife spiralling through the sky towards oblivion, shrieking about what she can offer. All the voices yell back that, no, you haven't got anything to offer whatsoever. The only thing that she's ever had is her connection to the royal family, and bringing out the overused olive branch is another attempt to manage that facade for the purposes of attempting to cause the royal family to let them back in some capacity to increase her relevance and thus enable her to pursue the prime aims that way. You might find it astonishing that she continues to bring out the olive branch, but this is because she doesn't learn from her mistakes, which is part of her narcissism. The compartmentalization that it engages in means that what happened before drops off the cliff and is only relevant to the extent that the narcissism deems that it's relevant, i.e. bringing up the past. To all other intents and purposes, what has gone on before is dead. Therefore, she doesn't recall and learn from the fact that there has been multiple use of the olive branch and it hasn't worked. She doesn't recall or learn from the fact that she's the one that caused the rift in the first place, and therefore her attempts to contact them are just going to be ignored. All of that is immaterial to her. That's why so many narcissists behave like they've got a really thick skin, that they appear to have such a huge brass neck, because they can appear amidst circumstances where hitherto relationships were particularly frayed and act as if nothing has happened. Thus, she trots along, wanting to portray herself as peacemaker, waving the olive branch around, and once again she'll be rebuffed, and of course in her world, they will be the ones that are smeared as they're the meanies, I came along wanting to be friends. I can't understand why they don't want to be. Every single time I've been nice to them and they're horrible to me. It just goes to demonstrate that they're awful racists. And thus she will repeat that mantra, completely incapable of grasping that the reason they don't bother with her is because it's her and her behaviours. Once again, the ability to understand her behaviours is broken down for you courtesy of understanding her narcissism. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.